Are you finding these watercolor mediums confusing? Do you really need Ox Gall? What about glycerin? And what on earth does Qor Watercolor Medium actually do? By the end of this video, you'll have a much better idea and a clear starting point. And just like my brushstrokes before paint strategy, where we see the brushstroke in advance and then we can plan it into our painting, well, with mediums, it's exactly the same. Mediums will give us an effect, and when we know what we want to achieve, we can pick up the right medium and work magic. But if you're willy-nilly dipping your brush into anything, you're more likely to have problems than less. So today we're going to have a look at these mediums, see what they actually do and when to use them. And importantly, what happens if you use too much. So let's get cracking. In my recent video, I used Art Spectrum Synthetic Ox Gall. I've now purchased Golden's Qor Synthetic Ox Gall and we'll be comparing the two. Then Watercolor Medium by Qor and Glycerin, straight from the kitchen shelf. Now each one of these solves a different problem, and that's the key. They are not interchangeable, they have their own purposes. So let me show you. Ox Gall is a wetting agent. It works on water, basically makes water wetter. One drop in 125 ml of water, that's 4 fluid ounces, or 2 drops in a standard 250 ml cup, 8 ounces. So how can you make water wetter? Well, here's an example. Let's say you're washing the car. When plain water hits the bonnet, it tends to bead up. If you add a little bit of detergent, it spreads out. Same thing. And here's a quick disclaimer. High-quality cotton watercolor papers and paints have been designed to work really well together. But when you're using a cellulose paper, then Ox Gall can be really handy. In this first example, I'm brushing water only over the cellulose paper, making sure there's no puddles, and then applying some Quinacridone Rose and Sap Green. I'm doing it twice because you can never be sure of the result. I'm continually doing experiments to see the similarities between them. Now, a quick experiment to test the two Ox Galls, the Art Spectrum and the Qor, both with 1 drop in 125 ml of water. The solutions are brushed over the paper and then the paint applied, and you can see straight away that the paint isn't spreading uncontrollably. Unbelievably so, it actually makes painting on cellulose paper possible, at least for practice. Having actually done 3 tests with water only on cellulose paper and 2 with the Ox Gall, I can now confidently say that the Ox Gall has helped the paint to spread more evenly and predictably. It hasn't traveled far out of its boundaries, and the results are just a nice, pleasant wet in wet result. In this second example, we look at Ox Gall for wet in wet on cotton paper. Here I've placed my 1 drop solution into a spray bottle and simply spraying my paper. My paper's also tilted. So I'm just going to paint a little sky. This is only a 10 by 7 sheet, but you might have a quarter sheet or a half sheet or a full sheet, and painting on larger surfaces where you're painting wet on wet or skies or something, it can be really handy. And I can even go back into the top section because it hasn't dried yet and add in some richer, thicker pigments, working beautifully, keeping my paper wet and allowing me to paint wet in wet longer. In our third experiment, I'm using Balhong cold press paper, which I've always considered to be a hard size paper because water doesn't immediately sink in. It's like you need more water. See how I have to keep reaching for more water? So I've had to dip my brush into water 3 times to cover that small area. Now I'm going to use 1 drop of Ox Gall, and I'm going to have to dip it in twice, maybe even 3 times, trying to get a consistent spread. And now for the 5-drop solution. I'm trying to look at it from the side. We only needed 1 dipping. So you see, the water is wetter. So in summary, Ox Gall makes your water wetter. 1 drop in half a cup of water is all you need for a beautiful even spread, and it will keep your paper wetter longer. Cellulose paper actually becomes usable, as Ox Gall tends to control the spread rather than increase it, and hard-sized surfaces become more absorbent. Remember, less is more. If you use too much, you'll get surprising opposite-looking results, such as hard edges or bleached-out color. And when not to use it? Well, stay away if you're doing fine detail work or wet on dry edges, because Ox Gall tends to keep things moving when you actually want them to stop. There's more on this in my recent video, and the link's up here in the corner. Now let's see what our watercolor medium can do. I'm using Meeden cotton cold press paper, and I'll just try out a quick little rose. There's a bit of surface tension, particularly because the paper's dry. I'm starting with the blob in the middle, then spreading it outward. I'm lifting some center petals with an eradicator. I like the Meeden paper, but I've never found it particularly great for lifting. And now I'll place in some inner petals and the outer ones too. Now we already know that Ox Gall's meant to work with water, enhance the water. Now watercolor medium is meant to enhance the paint. The manufacturer's instructions say that it can be added directly to the paint, but in my first example, I'm adding 5 drops of this medium to 1 fluid ounce of water, or 30 ml of water. Now I'll paint a similar rose on this side using my 5-drop solution of the watercolor medium. One of the benefits of using the medium is the way it extends the paint, giving you the feeling of diluted paint which actually hasn't lost its richness or vibrance. Another immediately apparent benefit is how easily the paint lifts, and the edges seem to be crisper. I can certainly feel less surface tension as the paint flows much more easily with the addition of the medium in the water. I'm loving the ease of brush strokes and the added intensity of color and vibrance. I'm using Daniel Smith paints today, but Qor Watercolor Medium has actually been designed to work really well with Qor watercolor paints because of a special ingredient called aquazole, which is the binder in those paints. But it still works well with other paints like Daniel Smith, Winsor Newton, Schmincke, and others. So it's a win-win for everyone. In this example, we're testing the medium to see how it works on its own. So first of all, I'm going to paint a leaf with water only. Now I'm adding 1 drop directly to the green paint and 1 drop to the red paint, and thoroughly mixing the medium in. And there's that one. I think the paint flowed smoother. This is why you need to do more than one experiment so that you can really see what the difference is. But I must say that even though you can't really see it, the application of paint is smoother. I really like that. The leaves are still all wet and I'm trying out some lifting, but obviously too wet. My water-only leaves are matte and my medium leaves are still glossy. So obviously they stay wetter for longer. I've tried some lifting out of the wetter leaves, but I'm just going to wait for everything to dry and then test that. Now, I'm not sure how long it's been, but testing this side of the paper versus this side, this is warm, normal, and this is still cool. So it's not fully dry yet, but I am going to see how it lifts anyway. So this is the side of water only, remembering that Sap Green is a staining color. But look at that amazing lifting. And I can make it thinner. I think that's amazing. I just want to play. I just love it. So in summary, watercolor medium enhances the paint. It makes it spread more smoothly and evenly. It increases its intensity and transparency and extends working time, and it also makes lifting easier. You can use it in a little bit of water or directly mixed into your paint. I'm still testing this medium, so I'm not entirely sure when not to use it, but I do know for a fact I would love to use it more with florals because the colors will be brighter, more vibrant. With its transparency, you can do beautiful glazes and lifting will be easy. So that's a win-win. If you like flowers, for you too. In this experiment, we're looking at glycerin. When I read what it says on the label, it says, add to icing for a smooth professional finish. Maintains moistness in fruitcakes and puddings. Right. Well, a glycerin is a humectant, which is like a moisturizer. It's often added to the paint's binder to make it more wettable, re-wettable. Look at this. This is a whole tray of dried up old paint, which could do with some rejuvenating. So here is one super dried out Prussian Blue pan, and just wet it with water and let it sit to soften up. And then mixing a puddle, but I have to have enough for all 4 swatches. We're testing paint wetness and how long it takes to dry. My first swatch is painted with water only, water and Prussian Blue. For the second swatch, I'm adding a drop of glycerin to my existing paint. Keep an eye on the clock as we time exactly how long it takes for the paint to dry, or trying to anyway. For the third swatch, I'm adding another drop. This will make it 2 drops of glycerin in the paint. Now, the sheen has gone off the water only one. There's still a bit of sheen on the 1 drop, and there's more sheen on the 2 drop. And finally, I'll add 3 more drops to make it 5 drops in total. And then we can watch the clock tick. 5 drops. If you see the clock jump, it's only because I've cut bits out so that it doesn't take so long. And but the actual times are still correct. What to do is keep an eye on this. The first one is already dull, matte. The second one is satiny. The third one is half glossy. The fourth one is completely glossy. If I touch the first one, nothing's come off. If I dab this one, it's come off. So with glycerin being a moisturizer, it works on the paint. If you have too much glycerin, it will actually never dry. It becomes sticky and gluggy, like honey you could say, because some paints actually do have glycerin in them to make them wetter or juicier or more easily wettable. So when would you use glycerin? You would use glycerin when you really wanted to play around with this wet paint. And when would you want to do that? Well, maybe you want to scratch into it. Let's do that. It won't affect anything else, so I'm just going to scratch into it. This one, nothing happened. This one, not much. This one is quite good. And this one is quite good. So if you were wanting to do such things, I would go for this one, 2 drops, because we yet have to see how long it takes for this one to dry. I know some people use glycerin in water instead of Ox Gall. It's up to you. Now let's test the dryness of number 2. Clean tissue, press it down, still a little bit. What does that also mean? It means that if you're using glycerin in your water, for example, possibly your paints might reactivate when you're trying to glaze them. And we might just do that and test it. But it may take a while because these have to dry fully. Oh, still picking it up. But you know, I like to use a drop of glycerin in my very, very yucky dried up gouache. It's great for that. I'm going to call that dry. And so all this time has passed, and I could go into this and still create some beautiful textures. Let's test this. Dry. Dry. This is half an hour later, and this one is still glossy. So I'm just going to stop there now because you can see that the glycerin keeps it wet, the paint. It keeps the paint wet. It does nothing to the paper, but keeps the paint wet. It's the following day, and even the 5 drops of glycerin... I rubbed the 5 drops of glycerin and I got a little bit on my finger. Well, 5 is not a good way to go. I'm thinking that if this wets as much as I think it does, then a glaze of colour won't be the safest option. But let's see. Okay, cross your fingers. Let's see how we go. Right, I am going to pull 1 stroke up this way. The 5 drops of glycerin is dissolving underneath, so you wouldn't want to layer it. And with the 2 drops, well, if you're very, very careful, you can get away with it, but not with 5. So let's summarize glycerin. Glycerin works on the wetness of the paint. It keeps paint wetter longer. It allows easier re-wetting. It extends working time if you're playing with textures. A little goes a long way. Use a drop to help reactivate and moisturize dried up paint. But use too much and your paint won't dry. And when not to use it? Well, in humid climates, 1 drop too many and it may stay sticky for days. So there's a lot to explore with experimenting, and you'll often find you have to do experiments more than once to really get a feel for what you're looking for. So for a quick overview, summary of all 3 mediums, ask yourself, what are you trying to achieve? And what conditions are you working in? Is your paper drying too fast? Would you like a beautiful fuzzy bokeh background or a beautiful sky? Or are you working on a large painting surface? Then you may like Ox Gall. But if you aren't confident with it, try wetting the back of your paper and the front. You can blot the front with a stretched out Kleenex and you'll still achieve crisp lines even though your paper's wet. Are you wanting to create beautiful florals? I would definitely be using the Qor Watercolor Medium. Would you like to play with your palette knife? Then glycerin, just a drop or 2 may be the way to go. But if you're not confident with that, why not try aqua pasto? It's specifically designed for that, and there's a video right up here in the corner if you'd like to see it. So, which of these tips has inspired you the most? Let me know in the comments below. I've done many more experiments than what I've been able to show in this short video. Come and join us over at school if you'd like to delve deeper into all these things and ask heaps of questions and get your answers. The door's always open. It's the first 7 days are on me, and you're always welcome. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. And thanks for watching, and bye for now.